there was the by-election in Batley and Spen yesterday. A lot of people were expecting Labour to lose their seat because George Galloway was going to eat so much of that vote share that they would crash. Almost. Very, very close. Like, unbelievably close.
Okay, so before we go into this, why is this important? Why is this by-election important?
By-election, not important, because it's just some by-election, who cares?
Yeah.
But it was about Keir Starmer, essentially. So Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, new one after Corbyn, been terrible, just as bad.
Yeah.
And he had lost the last by-election, he was about to lose this one, and then that would have been him gone. That would have been the political shift of the alliance.
So I saw all the sort of hyenas in Navarra media and all the other sort of like lefty lines going, well, if Starmer loses this, that's it. He's got no legitimacy. It's like, okay.
Like the entire Labour camp also assumed they were going to lose this. So all the Corbynites were just like pegging in, just like, okay, as soon as we lose, we get rid of Starmer.
Yeah.
And then we can get back power. Well, they didn't get that. So this is actually, even though it's a Labour hold, it's actually a pretty good victory. Like, I'm not sad about this at all. Because, of course, they also lost a massive amount of their vote share. So good, because death to Labour. And then they're stuck with Keir Starmer. And they can't even do anything about it. They're all just gritting their teeth, being like... So, this is the Guardian article with the vote share. If we can scroll down, they should have some graphs on here in which they have the vote share shift. So you can see the first one there. Labour losing 7.5% of the vote. Tories losing 1.6%. Didn't expect the Tories to lose votes, but there you go. That's what you get. And then the winner of the night being George Galloway, in the fact that he gained 21.9% of the vote out of nowhere. I mean, 0 to 22%. It's amazing work.
That is very good work.
Regardless of what you think
deny
of it. But I only want to look at those graphs, not the rest of the text. But the point in that graph, you can go back up, is the huge slump in Labour there. And remember, it's not just that'll swing back immediately in the next election. A lot of people just don't like voting for a party and then don't, ever. Once you get them to start being free voters, it's important. So not a bad result, for I think, even though Labour get to keep their seat by the hair of their, the skin of their teeth there, because they also have no casus belli to get rid of Keir Starmer. There's no leadership reform that's coming.
And the thing is, it was less than 1% difference between Labour and Conservative there.
Like 300 votes.
God. Okay, they must have been... Keir Starmer's just dripping with sweat. God. you know.
And as you mentioned, there have all been the hyenas circling around. So this is Navarra Media platforming Owen Jones to rant about how Starmer should resign because he's going to lose this.
Because he's not Jeremy Corbyn.
I know he hasn't. So what do you do? Because he hasn't. I mean, sure, he lost 7% of the vote overnight in this area. But, so they're kind of just stuck in the worst of both worlds. Where they're bleeding votes, but they also can't do anything because they're like, yes, it's a win. I swear.
Technical victory.
So this whole election has also been hilarious. So we're just going to enjoy the fact that this has been so funny. So as we mentioned before, there's the Labour candidate who was handing out leaflets that said things such as your MP, I will give you a strong national voice on Kashmir. Rubber bullets have been used at the holy site of Al-Aqsa Mosque at the holy month of Ramadan, and this is totally unacceptable. It's like...
What, in Batley and Spen? No, 1,000 miles away, actually, but, this is the Labour concern.
As Kelvin points out, you're a Labour candidate for Palestine. So, I mean, that's just where Labour is going. Like, the meme of the black flag of Labour came true. And there's also some of the other stuff they handed out that really pissed off the Hindus, apparently. Oh. So, we go to the next one. This is a leaflet that was handed out by Labour with on the front text... Don't risk a Tory MP who is not on your side. And then an arrow pointing to Boris Johnson shaking hands with Modi.
It's very interesting.
So him at the G7 meeting with another world leader. And they're like, yeah, see, he's not on your side. He's shaking hands with a Hindu. So saying to the Muslim voters there, yeah, he supports the Hindus. So I'm glad that racial hatred is back on the menu, I guess.
Thanks, Labour.
Here, of course, the Indians were like, this is Hindu-phobic. Not wrong. So, I mean, do we have...
Boris pictured with the Hindu leader. Oh, there we go. That tells you everything you need to know.
Do we have permission now to just put, pictures of Labour MPs shaking hands with any Muslim leader and being like, look
Hamas and Hezbollah?
Oh, well, no, that's not even it. I mean, he's a leader of India. He's not some terrorist.
Well, good point.
You could just, have them shaking hands with, I don't know,
the president of Egypt or something.
Or the Muslim Council of Britain and being like, they're not on your side. Apparently that's okay. Oh no, that would be Islamophobic, would it?
Can you imagine how much trouble you'd be in if the Conservatives had done that?
Exactly.
God damn.
It's like, okay. It's just Labour doing this. So, we go to the next one. Of course, remember, because having Islamic views is also Islamophobic, which is we learnt during this election. So, Labour Muslim Network, verified checkmark. As a reminder, it is a breach of the Islamophobia definition adopted by this party to make stereotypical allegations about Muslims. This includes the common trope that Muslims are inherently, and as a community, more likely to be anti-Semitic, homophobic, and or misogynistic.
Don't look at the Pew polling.
Just not even they're all homophobes, but more likely to be homophobes. That statement as well is Islamophobia.
Just don't ask Muslims in Britain what their moral views on homosexuality are, and then you won't find yourself in a problem like this.
I mean, the Gallup poll, what was it? 0% of British Muslims believe homosexuality is ever moral.
Yes.
Morally acceptable.
Yes.
Okay. So they also had a response to this because, so as you can see there, someone from a source within inside the campaign had said that the Labour group had lost the conservative Muslim vote over gay rights in Palestine. So in response, the Labour Muslim Network, who have said that having Islamic views is Islamophobic, decided to say once again Muslim Labour members are forced to endure offensive and Islamophobic briefings from the Labour Party. This is an insult to the waves of Muslim members, councillors and MPs who have spent weeks campaigning for Labour victory in Batley and Spen, who probably also have those views. Let's be honest.
Well, 0%. 0%.
0% think it's morally acceptable to be gay. British Muslims.
Not our opinion.
Not Iraqi Muslims, not Somali Muslims, not Saudi Muslims, British Muslims.
Who are interestingly more progressive, actually. If the Pew 2013 Pew polling is anything to go by, the British Muslims are uncharacteristically intolerant across the Muslim. There's something like 88% of Muslims worldwide think that homosexuality is not morally acceptable. But if it's 100% of British Muslims, that's okay.
But to say
Weird.
that is Islamophobic. Yeah.
Oh,
so the big thing out of this election for liberals like us was really the issue of blasphemy, because the teacher there, the one who may or may not have shown an image of Muhammad, is now up in arms about whether or not he even did.
Are they?
I know, right?
I assumed that he did.
There's allegations that nothing was even shown.
Oh,
So
okay.
what was that about? So the candidates were asked about this, so we're going to play the first clip here, which is the Labour candidate's response to being directly asked on this topic. So let's go to the first video.
I think what happened at Batley Grammar School has been resolved in terms of the inquiry that's taken place, and I was involved with a number of people who were dealing with that. I think we've got to a solution now where it has been admitted that mistakes were made. I think that's really important, and apologies have been made for any offence that was caused. I think it's horrendous that a teacher has ended up in hiding. I have reached out to him via his union and offered to support him in whichever way I can, and I would continue to do that if I was elected. The main focus now, as somebody who has worked in this community, bringing people together from different backgrounds, is that we pull together as a community, we focus on the children's education. I think that's what everybody wants, and we make sure that this teacher is not put under the spotlight any more than he already has been. He needs to be able to get on with his life.
Do you want to see that teacher back in the classroom at Batley Grammar?
I think that has to be a decision for the teacher, and I'm sure I know those conversations are taking place, and I think that has to be a matter for him.
But if he feels his
school.
Life is under threat by going back to his job, there's a problem, isn't there?
Well, I think again that's up to him to decide, and I would imagine that he'd probably appreciate having the time and the privacy to do that, which I think is what people should be very respectful of.
You may be under the threat of death from an Islamic extremist, but I mean, it's up to you to decide whether you want to go back to your job. Thanks, British government.
The Labour Party there, I'm under death threats from Islamists, and you're like, yeah, that's up to you. That's up to you to put yourself in that position to have death threats put at you. I wore a short skirt. Yeah, it's up to you to get raped. I mean, you wore a skirt.
Well, that's what they're saying there, actually.
That's the argument. But also the statement she said there, the teacher should not be put under any more spotlight.
As
And
in, I just wish this would go away.
that could go both ways. It's is she saying that we shouldn't be persecuting him, or is she saying that we should just under the carpet?
Well, I mean, I agree he shouldn't be getting death threats,
I mean, it's waffle.
if that's what she means.
Waffle at best, an acceptance of Islamic blasphemy at worst. So then we have the Tory candidate, who wasn't much better. He was a little bit better on this, but being the Tory, he was trying to just sidestep the whole thing. So let's play this clip.
Well, Kim says the matter's been resolved, but it evidently hasn't, because we've got a teacher who's still in hiding and doesn't feel safe to come back to school. And I'm director of an academy trust here in West Yorkshire, and I understand more than anybody here the importance of safeguarding and the duty of care we have on our children and our staff. And it is completely unacceptable the way that this teacher has been dealt with, and the fact he's had to be in hiding. But the job of an MP is to speak out when things aren't right and to challenge and speak up for their communities. And freedom. We didn't have that with our last Labour MP. There was no statement bringing the community back together or challenging the school. And my commitment on this issue, if I'm elected on the 1st of July, is to offer the experience I've got as a director of an academy trust to help the school and the teacher, if it's wanted, to build back from this in a better way, and work with the government to ensure that our core values continue to be taught in our curriculum of rule of law, democracy, individual liberty and tolerance of religious freedom.
I mean, okay, so
I
generally...
love the interview at the end there. You see his face?
Yeah.
He's just like,
I mean, generally that wasn't a bad statement.
No,
right?
like-
I agree with him that obviously, but why does he have to sneak Build Back Better into it?
Tory, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. No one likes this.
Yeah.
No one in the Conservative camp even likes this.
And it makes you so obviously look like you've been groomed by Davos. You know, that you've gone to Davos and you've been given your marching orders, and that's all we're hearing when you say that. Just stop saying it.
It's such a bad phrase. Get Brexit done. Great phrase. Build Back Better. Terrible phrase. Even without all the other stuff around it. It's awful. But he said in there the issue hasn't been resolved. That's true. He says it's up to MPs to speak out on these issues. True. It depends in which way you go. That's the right thing to do or not. But then the Build Back Better, not great. But he does say we must teach in schools rule of law, democracy, individual liberty, and tolerance of religious freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the thing about blasphemy. Like, have a religion or no religion is protected under law in the UK. So blasphemy is also protected. So not terrible, like, but he could have done better. Could have really done better there. I mean, there are candidates who have done better there. But so then there's the other stuff that happened around here, which was interesting. So here's the first video here that went a bit viral with 1.2 million views. So some I presume supporter of Galloway, I'm not really sure, but he came up and he started shouting at the Labour candidate, why is she not supporting the Muslim community, or blah blah blah, and then she just gets annoyed and like walks off and gets in her car. And this has been blown up into like a huge thing, but it's like, well,
just looks like leftists harassing her.
Like this is, but it's also there's no violence. Like he shouts at a person that he doesn't like. This is typical Labour activism in which you just shout that at anyone. So I don't know why they're so surprised about the whole thing. Yeah. But then there's also the fact that there's no violence, it's just direct action, as leftists would call it. There's more direct action, isn't there? See here? So this is a story of West Yorkshire Police release image of a man wanted in connection with assaults on Labour activists in Batley and Spen.
Oh.
It's just direct action, as Antifa and the left would say. It's just engaging in anti-Labour action. No.
What do you do, bring a milkshake?
Yeah, he's a violent criminal who's engaging in petty terrorism. That's what it should be, and that's how Antifa should be treated.
Yeah.
And I hate that they...
And Labour activists when they're busy attacking people they don't like.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, this nicely brings us along to George Galloway. So let's go to George Galloway's leaflets, which I thought were amazing. Like, regardless of what you think of the man, his campaigning has been unbelievably good. I have to give it to him. It's fantastic. So here's his leaflets, and you can see the choice in our area, in all caps, People's Champion George Galloway, or, not caps, unknown Tory candidate. It's like Chad versus Virgin here, like Chad, People's Champion George Galloway versus the Virgin Tory candidate, whoever that is. It's fantastic. So then there's the other stuff he's been doing. So he's got his posters up, which also look amazing. So let's go to the next leg, which you can see him with his posters of him trying to fight you, which is just, I thought was great. Like, I love it. And then if we go to the next thing, this is him. He's been doing interviews with pretty much everyone. Like Labour and Tories have their press offices where they cherry pick who they want to talk to. Galloway's been a proper person here and just, you want to know my views? Here they are. Here's your interview. Bye-bye. That's the right thing to do. And he had Owen Jones come down. And what was amazing about this is Commissar Jones really went to town as just being like, you're a bad leftist. Why?
Because you're not woke.
You're going to help the Tories, therefore you're a bad leftist. Smack, smack, smack.
Oh,
like,
not team player, George.
It says 20 minutes of this. And even his own audience, like I watched this and I looked in the comments, even his own audience were like, oh man, you came off bad here. Oof. Because he did. So let's go for the next clip in which he just smacks George Galloway with being a bad leftist.
And it has you pointing decisively, Starmer out.
Yeah.
He's not Prime Minister. So it seems odd for someone like yourself, former Labour MP, certainly someone traditionally man of the left, campaigning not against the Conservative Prime Minister, who, as you say, does have a big majority, but against the leader of the opposition, who's nowhere near power. Doesn't a part of you feel a bit sad that you'll end up, despite everything, delivering a seat to the Conservative Party?
No, we don't concede that at all. I think if Keir Starmer becomes the first leader of the opposition in political history to lose 2 of his own seats to the government in
unfortunate.
midterm
It's unfortunate.
in 3 months, his position will be untenable.
Boris Johnson wants
That's
you to
what
do
you
well,
want, Owen.
doesn't he? I mean, Boris, if Labour lose the seat, if the Tories win it, partly thanks to your campaign, Boris Johnson, we all know, we saw what he did on the exit poll, he punched the air. He will be a very, very, very happy man. He will be boosted. His chances of winning an even bigger majority in the next election increase. Doesn't that make you feel...
Black Lives Matter, or Black Lives Mansions, as they're known in some parts
What
of
do
the
you mean Black
United
Lives
States.
Mansions?
Well, the leaders of BLM in America have miraculously turned up in gated, white-only communities owning large
BLM
mansions.
isn't one organisation, it's a movement, it's a franchise. It's just. I mean, in 2017, you said you could never support any Tory. In 2018, you said you'd sooner poke your eyes out. And then you voted for the Tories in Scotland. You didn't poke your eyes out. They're still there, I can see them.
When the facts change, so do my opinions.
Do you think your younger self would have seen you vote Tory and gone, what the
Just
hell
like,
did I end up doing that for?
As I say, when facts change, so do my opinions.
And it was amazing. Like, if people haven't watched it, go and give it a watch, because as much as I don't like to promote Owen's channel, that was hilarious. And I'm not misrepresenting that at all. Like, you can go watch the full thing, and he's just like, yeah, but you're helping the Tories. He's like, yeah, but when the facts change, my opinions change.
Yes.
I can't fathom this, says Owen Jones.
Owen Jones, can't understand it. And the thing is, though, him like, you're hurting Keir Starmer. Don't you want Keir Starmer out, Owen? That's good for you. You hate Keir Starmer, don't you? I thought you did anyway.
Yeah, so there's that. So you've got Commissar Jones, and you expect Commissar Jones to do exactly that. I mean, he's the Commissar. But Commissar BBC did exactly the same thing, and to a worse degree, I think. And this is from the neutral organisation. So this is the interview, and his guys put this up on his channel, and oh my god, is it bad for the BBC. So let's go for the first one, in which they just berate him again for being a bad leftist.
Why have you come to stand in this seat? You have nothing to do with this particular seat.
Would you ask that of any of the other
Yes, I have
candidates?
done. Yes,
Why
I have
they
done.
come to stand in this seat? Because there's an election. And the
But you're
election,
not a local man. Why wouldn't somebody vote for
Well,
Kim
that's a local
Leadbeater,
place
who
for
is
local
born and
people.
bred
My
here and
goodness.
knows the constituency very well?
Is there any need for me in this interview, or are you just going to give a party political broadcast?
Some of your campaign is surely about getting rid of Keir Starmer as the leader of the Labour Party.
Sure.
You've spoken about that.
Sure.
And you've talked about yourself being a revolutionary in the past. This kind of revolution, though, is a negative one, surely. What are your positive goals, other than trying to bring down the Labour leader?
I ask again, is there any point in me being in this interview? This is a party political broadcast. All of your questions, I could give the same.
Let's talk about the Conservatives then, because they could have kept that police station
No, they
open.
couldn't.
They've been
It was
in
Labour
power
that closed
since
it.
2010.
No, it was Labour that closed it.
If you split the Labour vote,
There is no Labour vote. There are only voters.
Okay,
Individual
if you drive
Nobody has a right.
a wedge through the
Nobody-
majority that Labour currently hold,
Nobody-
surely
Right,
you
that'd
will
be
be
a possible
handing this
political
election to the Conservatives. Is that what you
Are
want?
is this Labour TV or is it the BBC? Is this Labour
Do
TV?
you want?
Look,
are you happy to see the Conservatives gain power
There is
here?
no such thing as a Labour vote. There are only voters, individual human beings who have to be persuaded to vote for you. Now, your concern for the fate of the Labour Party in this constituency is touching, probably in breach of the BBC's charter.
I'm asking
One
you about
of the reasons why
Conservatives
people are
gaining
switching
power. Are
off
you happy
the
to have
BBC
the
News
Conservatives in
droves.
power?
I'm fighting to win this election. If you vote for me, you'll get me.
I love it. You spoke over the little bit
Sorry,
there in the first part, though, which was the best, in which he says, why would people vote for you, someone who's not in the constituency? Unlike the Labour candidate, Kim Leadbeater, who lives in the area and knows the area very well. I mean, could you get any more obvious in your bias of just being like, this candidate's fantastic and wonderful, she lives in the area, Labour, and then they won't vote for evil you, Mr. Galloway. It's unbelievably bad. Like, even worse than Owen. And you'll notice it's the same argument. Just, you're going to help the Tories, you're a bad leftist.
But even more, it's like, aren't you a foreigner? Like, okay, Labour supporting BBC. We're against foreigners now, are we? It's okay that he's foreign. That's not a problem.
And what's amazing
You know?
is this got even better. Like, this got better and better. So the next clip is him basically explaining why you should defund the BBC because of this interview, if nothing else. And it's great. So let's play.
You've said it's about you. It should be about the people of Batley and Spen. How long do you?
When did I say it was
just
about
then you
me?
said it's about me. It's about votes
my
for me.
record, my programme, and what I'm offering the people in this by-election. You're no Jeremy Paxman. I don't know if that's what you're trying to pretend that you are.
Not at all.
And the BBC News Channel sure ain't no singing and dancing success.
No,
I
that's
gave
not
you my
true,
time
Mr. Galloway.
to speak about the issues in this election. All you have done from the first second is attack me on behalf of the Labour Party.
No, not at
which
all.
is a
I'm
very
asking you
odd
what
use
you're-
of
I'm
all
asking
these
you-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 BBC staff.
I'm asking
It's an odd use of the
I'm
taxpayers'
asking
money.
you. It's a licence fee payer, not a taxpayer.
What's the difference between a licence fee and a taxpayer?
It's a levy, not
do you
a
wanna
tax.
do you want to have a debate about that?
What I'd like
because
you to
people are
do-
sick paying the BBC for party political
I would
propaganda
like to ask
on behalf
you-
of the establishment.
I would like to ask you then, how long-term a commitment are you prepared to make in Batley and Spen?
Exactly the same as everyone else. This constituency ceases to exist at the next general election. Perhaps you didn't know that.
George Galloway from the Workers' Party, thank you very much for talking to us.
I'd be lying if I said thank you back.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
kind of disappointed he didn't win now.
Yeah.
Even though I totally disagree with almost everything he stands for.
You have to
was
hand
fun.
it to him.
Yeah.
That was gold. I mean, that was absolute gold. Fully exposed her there and the organisation for what they are, which is just the wing of the establishment to keep them in order. And it's just wonderful, if nothing else. But just the fact that she's arguing with him about, it's not a tax, it's a levy, and it's just like, shut up.
Aren't you hurting Keir Starmer? Shut up. Yes, good. What do you want?
There was something in the start of there that I forgot, and I should have jotted it down. But the fact that she's again being like, how dare you harm the Labour Party? That's the message.
Labour Party Defence Force at the BBC has leapt into action.
Like, I saw people posting in the chat as well. Excellent point, which is just her narrative is, how dare you run? You're meant to lose.
Yes.
Like, how dare you fight against us? You're not meant to run at all. The Labour Party's meant to win here. So good on him for that. Even though Labour get in and they keep their seat by 300 votes.
Oh, it's a Pyrrhic victory.
Very Pyrrhic. Very, very Pyrrhic. And I saw Keir Starmer this morning was saying Labour is back in response to this.
One more victory like this and Labour is undone. That's what he's saying. Like, I'm not even kidding. That, like, being within 1% of the Conservatives,
that's victory, is it?
Yeah. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.